Now that the reality has set in, are you scrambling to figure out what your team really needs from you? Hey, my dear, I am leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and I help women leaders ditch survival mode and enjoy impactful leadership. And today we're going to talk about how do you have that impact and return to some of the joy, the passion for the work that you do amidst the crisis. So we're going to talk about the three things that your team really, really needs from you right now. And they are stability, direction, and guidance. Last week, I talked about how you manage the stress in this massive time of crisis. And I want you to go back to that video if you haven't watched it, because the stability that is required of you right now, first in your team, first requires that you are stable yourself. And so I was thinking about this, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if somebody's been freaking out, have you ever sort of taken them by the shoulders and said, look in my eyes? That's what your team needs right now. That metaphorically for you to go, stop, look in my eyes. We've got this. We'll figure it out. And in order for you to do that, you yourself need to be stable and in control. You need to be composed. You need to be taking care of your own wellness. If you're not, you're going to lose it and you're going to fall apart. You're going to have a meltdown. You're going to blow up. You're going to physically fall apart if you are not taking care of yourself. So the first step to that stability is to make sure that you're stable. The next step to creating that stability for your team, I got to move this microphone because I'm going to bonk it a zillion times, you guys. I talk with my hands. The next thing for creating that stability for your team is being the voice of reason, being the calm in the middle of the storm, being the one to create the environment where you've checked in on people, where you've talked about what's been going on openly and honestly, where you've allowed people to vent, where you've had the compassion for everybody, where you've sort of stopped and said, I'm here for you. So first thing that your team really, really needs for you now is to create the stability. We live in crisis mode all the time. Now we're in like mega crisis mode. So you have to slow things down, at least for your team. Really having problems with this microphone today. For your team. The second thing that your team needs is direction. If you aren't telling your team where you're going, you're not really leading them. Leadership is about creating a vision and taking people there. And so there are times, and certainly the last 7, 10 days, 14 days have been moment to moment to moment. Now we're recognizing that this is not going to change in the near future. So now what your team needs for you is to go, here's the crisis we're in, and here's where I see us getting to in the next week, the next month, the next 3 months. They need you to create that vision. They need you to give them that sense of this is where we're going, that sense of direction. So imagine if there's this storm, you're out in the middle of the water, there's this storm going on around you. You're the one who stops and says, okay, whoa, let's stop the boat, create the stability, get things, organized, make sure that nobody's falling out of the boat and we're not leaking water. That's that creating that sense of stability. Now you're going to say, okay, I get it. There's this storm going on around us. And do you see that peak over there, that mountaintop? We're going to go in that direction because that means there's land over there. And I know that when we get over there, we'll be able to kind of like step out, get ourselves grounded and move on. That's what we're talking about. So the first thing is create that stability. Second thing is to create that direction. The third thing that your team really, really, really needs from you right now is the guidance of how you're going to get there. So we've stopped the boat. We've created, taken everybody's madness where everybody's like, and gone, okay, whoa, chill out. See that mountain over there? We're going there. Now you need to tell them how you're going to get there. That's what leadership is all about. And so it's creating new systems and new strategies and new ways of communicating. I have one client right now that's looking at bringing me in to do some training around how to supervise virtually. This kind of conversation is not what most of us are used to in terms of how we manage our teams. And so how do you have those conversations virtually? For many of us, you don't even know the technology, let alone how to have that conversation. And so it's figuring those things out. Here's how we are going to get to that mountain in terms of building a team. We're used to sitting around the lunchroom chit-chatting, and that's kind of part of how we build teams. We're used to getting together once a month or every 6 months for a team meeting and talking. This is how we're going to do that now. And then, there's some issues around privacy and confidentiality. Make sure you're not texting client information from one supervisor to the coordinator, that kind of stuff. So your job as a leader is to say, this is how we're going to deal with those privacy issues now. So we've taken care of, hopefully in most cases, how we're doing the physical stuff, but maybe not. Maybe there's still some of that going on. So to recap, your team needs you to create the stability, the sense of direction, and then the guidance to get there. So I want you to think about that because, again, that's a lot on your shoulders. And if you're going to do that, be the voice of calm, the voice of reason, the one who's setting the direction, the one who's developing the plan of how you're going to get there, you must, absolutely must, heighten your self-care, your own ability to stay calm and to carry that weight. That's a huge weight you're carrying right now. More than ever, you've got on your shoulders the lives and the livelihood of your clients and your employees. You've got on your shoulders the responsibility to set that direction and the workload that it's going to be required to get there. That's a lot on your shoulders. So if you haven't watched last week's video where I talk about the how to deal with the magnitude of stress that you're under, go back and watch that one, and I'll put it in the link as well. The other thing that I wanted to share quickly is today I launched my podcast. And so today's podcast is all about the fundamentals of leadership, which again is something that might be really helpful for you to go listen to really get a sense of, as a leader in major crisis, it is inextricably, that word didn't come out right, more important now that you take care of yourself, but also that you lead strongly, powerfully. And those leadership capacities, I think we often forget in the main day-to-day world, but especially in crisis. We've come back into this head down, nose to the grindstone, let's just get through today's survival mode. But what you need to do as a leader is help your team thrive through the crisis. You cannot thrive through the crisis if you're stuck as a leader with your head down. You need to step back, create that stability, create the direction, and give them the guidance of how to get there. That's your job now as a leader, is to look to the future, help your team get to a new future, whatever that new future is. And so it's going to require all of the leadership skills you have and for you to create more. So I will pop the link in for my new podcast as well. And the conscious thoughts that you have around, I'm leading. I'm not managing crisis anymore. We've got the crisis relatively under control to the degree that you can. Now, how do I lead them through this storm? You're still in the storm. It hasn't gone anywhere. But how do you create that sense of direction and then guide them through the storm? That's your job now. More than ever, your team needs you to create the stability, give them that sense of direction and the guidance to get there. It's when you do that, my dear, that you will move you and your team out of survival mode and to thriving, both in the leadership roles that you're doing and in the rest of your lives. If you've found today's episode to be helpful, then I think you'll love the training library. Many women that I talk to as nonprofit leaders wish they had access to a coach or mentor to support them, but don't believe that they or their organization can afford it. But you can. Inside of the training library, I offer you ongoing personal and professional development that is easily accessible and affordable, ongoing, and access to a personal coach at your fingertips. That way, when you hit those inevitable bumps and humps that you're going to be challenged with in leadership, which are just part of leadership, you will know where to go to get the support and the direction that you need. you want more information about that, head over to kathyarcher.com/library and you will find out all about the training library. Remember, it's time to get out of survival mode. You're still in the middle of a storm, but that doesn't mean you have to just survive it. Get out of survival mode and move to thriving, both in your leadership and your life. Go make the rest of your day awesome.